Beyond the problem of our gasoline purchases enriching people who want to harm America lies another issue that makes this energy crisis different from anything we have faced before. It's the threat that global warming poses to the planet and our way of life. So I visited the National Center for Atmospheric Research overlooking Boulder, Colorado, to find out what the U.S. government's top scientists have to say about climate change.
One of our missions here is to really try to communicate our scientific findings with the public.
Bill Collins, the center's chairman for global climate modeling, is a lead author of what's widely considered to be the most comprehensive study of climate change to date. He took me to the center's inner sanctum, the Visualization Lab, where supercomputers create models of global warming.
So, Tom, this is our simulation of how the temperature has changed from the middle of the 19th century, basically at the beginning of industrialization. Each frame is 1 year, and the colors get warmer and warmer because the planet is heating up. The blue area is indicating that the planet is cooler. Those are more or less disappearing from our simulation.
Yeah, they're shrinking.
When we get into the late 1990s, we have 5 of the warmest years in the historical record. Now we're getting into the future, and you'll start to see colors in the orange and red range. And we know that's due to mankind's burning of fossil fuel. There's no longer any reasonable doubt in the scientific community.
So what would happen?
Well, for example, you would begin irreversibly melting Greenland. All of the ice on Greenland, it's equivalent to more than 25 feet globally of sea level rise.
What would that do to New York City?
You would need a really high dike around New York City. This will have a major impact on coastal areas in the United States. Island nations will be completely inundated.
Bill, if you had a chance to convey one message about what you've learned here on the basis of hard science, what would it be?
The message would be that we're running an uncontrolled experiment on the only home that we have.
With the urgency growing and a lack of sustained action from both Washington and the automobile industry, individual Americans have been doing something about our oil addiction all by themselves.
I'm glad to hear that.
In the basement of a small building on the outskirts of Aspen, Colorado, is a group called FiberForge, founded by the environmentalist and physicist Amory Lovins. They are making ultralight car bodies out of carbon fiber.
These are the carbon fibers. These are 48,000 strands.
My team published a book called Winning the Oil Endgame, describing how to eliminate U.S. oil use by the 2040s, led by business for profit, while revitalizing the economy and improving our national security.
How?
The basic recipe is pretty simple. The first thing to do is triple the efficiency of cars, trucks, and planes. If we make our vehicles ultra-light with such materials, we take out half the weight, we save half the fuel, and when you combine that with hybrids, then you get tripled efficiency.
So if you're going to stamp a front of a car or back of a car...
Precisely.
What about that safety issue?
The car gets safer because these materials can absorb up to 12 times the crash energy per pound of steel. You could run it into a wall at 35 miles an hour and still be protected from serious injury.
So here's the part we just formed, Tom. Once it's trimmed, it can look just like these other parts.
You say these things are tough, right?
Oh, absolutely, very tough.
You're going to see just how tough. I'm going to break one of these. Just plastic.
You want to try jumping on it?
Sure.
Here, why don't you try jumping on it on the floor?
Somebody got a bigger hammer? Here, give me that. Darn it.
You're asking about the automobile. This is what it looks like when it's formed into a car part.
All the major car companies have expressed interest in ultralight car bodies.
Here, but
The folks at FiberForge say we could see these on the road in 5 to 6 years.
Get a feel for how light
These are the
it is.
materials. I can't lift this.
Sure you could. It's not steel, it's carbon fiber.
Whoa! I'm strong. I'm not that strong. Amy, what is this? What is this?
Amory took me to his home at the Rocky Mountain Institute to show me another key element in how to get America off oil. It's ethanol, a fuel made from plants.
Actually, once we've saved half the oil by making our vehicles ultra-light, we can get the other half from advanced biofuels like ethanol made from the switchgrass.
I mean, this grass can...
Yeah, this is like a 5 or 6 foot high prairie grass. It's a perennial. It comes up by itself every year, and it doesn't need any irrigation, doesn't need any pesticide. So this is not corn. In the United States, they make corn into ethanol. This is woody, weedy stuff. In
It
fact,
has more energy in it than corn?
oh yeah, and a much better net energy yield, less capital investment, twice the crop yield, and it just sits there and grows, and you harvest it with haymaking equipment. Then you send it to the ethanol plant.
In fact, Brazil gets almost half of its motor fuel from ethanol made from sugar, and it could export it to the United States. But Washington has imposed a 100% tariff in order to protect American farmers who make more costly ethanol from corn.
And because of that tariff, Brazil's going to ship the stuff to China and Japan instead of us.
So that's great. So Brazil is the Saudi Arabia of our hemisphere. It's got a energy source that it grows, quite natural, and we're preventing it from coming into the United States?
Well, 100% duty is a pretty good deterrent.
What is our duty on crude oil?
0.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
In the backwaters of Southern California is another small band of engineers who are working on a car that could change the way the world drives. Inside this little garage in Monrovia, California, they are converting already fuel-efficient hybrids into plug-ins. They replace the original factory-installed battery with a set of much larger batteries that are charged by plugging into a regular electric outlet. This allows the plug-in to go the same distance as a regular hybrid on only half the amount of gas.
So the next step now that we've got...
Greg Hansen is an engineer with the small company that's doing conversions.
With our own system.
Only in America.
The battery pack out of the... Tom, you want to give me a hand with this? I'm an engineer, and I'm a geek. And I'm very fascinated by the technologies that are involved in the future of transportation. But I'm also concerned about America's place in a world, Tom, with less and less fossil fuel. It's not just about cleaner air. It's about what happens to our United States economy when we're paying $8 a gallon for gasoline and we're at war with China over some scrap of land in the Middle East trying to get it.
Felix Kramer is the founder of CalCars.org, a virtual think tank devoted to the plug-in hybrid.
So Felix, what exactly is the big benefit from this plug-in?
Well, the fact is, the average American commuter drives maybe 20, 25 miles per day. If you have a battery that can get you all electric for that entire time, every night you go home and you plug in your car and you leave the next morning with a full tank of electricity. You don't ever have to go to the gas station.
Felix, step by step.
I asked Felix where this idea came from.
I got one of the first Priuses, and there was this little black button that had nothing written on it. So many of us Prius owners were online, and the people who were from Europe and Japan responded that on our car it says EV, which means electric vehicle. It turned out that this button gave a very brief, less than a mile, electric-only range to the car. So the gasoline engine didn't come on. So we set up an online discussion group, explicitly open source. Got people from all over the world contributing their ideas, figured out how to re-enable the button, and we converted a car.
This is our original prototype that was done almost a year ago. This vehicle, underneath the floor here, we have a bunch of batteries.
And this is the key deal.
This is how we plug it in. This is what makes all the difference. Right here, we plug in.
So how many miles per gallon are you getting on this car?
It's about 100 miles per gallon.
I want to drive this thing.
Absolutely, let's do it.
In fact, if you fuel it with E85 ethanol, which contains only 15% gasoline, you have a plug-in that can go 500 miles for every gallon of gas it uses.
So Felix, I want to convert my hybrid. How much does it cost?
$10,000 to $12,000. But we believe that Toyota could sell these cars to buyers for $3,000 more than the cost of a regular hybrid. And that's where the huge market is.
Explain something to me. Toyota's been very green. Why would they be resisting all of this?
There's a lot of speculation, but certainly one reason is that Toyota was spending tens of millions of dollars explaining to people that they didn't have to plug in. They were essentially saying plugging in was a bad thing.
Toyota was not the only hybrid car maker that promoted no plugging in as a big benefit. Honda made this TV commercial to emphasize the point.
You never plug it in.